It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to cover Super Mayhem and the three teams that we've been using to get through the battles. As you can notice that there is no healers or support units on the team that are doing healing, and that is because in the majority of most battles, the poison is going to take down the team so quickly that you don't really have the option to out-heal the poison and out-heal the damage from the oncoming opponents. So with that in mind, what we've done is we've set up the teams to be damage focused and try to be as survival focused as possible too. So we got Crunchy Chip, Wildberry, Caviar, Dark Cacao, and Black Pearl. Very chunky team, very big health points and hit points to try and deal a lot of damage over time. We've got Black Pearl and Caviar that can do a lot of area damage. We've got Cacao that can remove the shields. We've got extra damage resistance from Wildberry, and any benefits are going directly into Crunchy Chip and having another unit on the field to battle. As you can also see, we aren't running the clock because we want the revival, we want the insignia for the survival, and we want the scroll for damage. When we look at the toppings, we are going with the cooldowns for stuns on Wildberry. We are going with the critical setups for Crunchy Chip. We're going for high HP for Dark Cacao. We're going for damage resistance for Caviar because of low hit points, and cooldowns on Black Pearl. For the second team, we are running Brute, T-Knight, Werewolf, Caramel Arrow, and Vampire. This team hits pretty hard because Vampire gives another feather-like activation, which helps T-Knight get those skill buffs activated, and he passes those to either Brute or Werewolf or Caramel Arrow. So this team's a pretty heavy hitting team, and it's a good lead team if you want, but I like to lead with the weakest team first. That way I can usually secure the last two battles, as most people will lead with their strongest team. So we're running damage resistance on T-Knight, speed for stuns on Brute, speed for Werewolf, critical for Caramel Arrow, and attack for Vampire. And then our third team is Purple Yam, Eclair, Clotted, Squid Ink, and Espresso. If we get it lined up correctly, we get the shields from Eclair. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes it's a good clutch in if we're in a good fight that we can. And of course, Espresso dealing the injury and the defense reduction from Squid Ink and the Magic Candy from Purple Yam. It's hard to not run Magic Candy users as one of your teams because it's just going to plow through pretty heavily. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and take it into a battle and just show you what's going on. Now, you can adjust your teams accordingly to what you're about to fight. It is give or take in that sense if you want to do so, but I try to just let it be this lineup because usually this lineup does pretty good. So as you can see, we took the first battle. The second battle is a very high chance that we'll take it because our team is a very strong outputting team, especially with Werewolf's new Magic Candy dealing all that relative damage to injury. However, as you can see, they had Brute on their team, so they were able to get those good stuns, and that's why they were able to take our team. And we'll look at the analytics after to show you how it unfolded and what really happened against all the teams here and why we do or do not take it at the end. So we've already activated Insignia on our side. We're not going to take it. So let's look at what's going on here. So team 1, good team, very defensive oriented team. As you can see, their healing was only really 1 million damage, but they gave up about 2 to 3 million damage because of it. Their Caviar did a huge amount of damage, but that's because their Caviar was buffed by their Financier, and they were probably running attack toppings on their Caviar to try and get that output. So that was an interesting setup and a good setup, but overall we did still take that first battle. The second battle, our T-Knight did not get to live very long because of their Squid Ink and Espresso and Werewolf were just able to completely demolish. Now our Werewolf did a really good job here, really good setup, but in the end their team did take it because they made our Insignias activate first, so they had the lead on that setup. And then our last battle, our Purple Yam and Clouded did a really good job, but they did have a couple good activations of their Eclair and their shields, so that's why they were able to outlive our battle. And with Vampire, you get that Feather activation, which gives a free Insignia heal. That's a really strong setup, so that was a tough battle to win. If they didn't have Vampire on that side, we might have had a chance. And as you can see, we only lost one because they were a high ranking. So now if we take it against someone like this, who's lower ranking, maybe we have better odds. Let's give it a shot. So some people are running a lot of healers. I find that my results are a little bit more consistent when I'm not running them. You can, of course, run a BTS cookie in every team if you really want to. But yet again, you're really depending on the heals keeping you alive rather than the damage out-damaging the opponent. So, first battle there, we took it with the damage. Second battle here, looks like we're in the lead as far as the overall damage itself. Yep, and we've got 3 units left to their 1. So we take it. Yet again, we're going to look at the analytics, show you what happened. So first team, they had, same type of team setup. They just didn't have Wildberry this time. And yet again, their Caviar did a really good job. But we had a consistent, smooth damage output from all 5 of our units, which outpaced the damage from their side of the team. Second team, a little more tilted on our side. That's because Werewolf and Brute were able to just absolutely push through and demolish. And as you can see, the team setup here, Werewolf continuously gets the high end point with the damage because Werewolf on speed just completely pushes through. Does a really, really good job. And of course, we didn't even get to their team 3, so we didn't have to worry about that battle. And they had a good lineup. Brute, Dark Cacao, Werewolf, Espresso, Squid Ink. That's a pretty good lineup, but we were able to put all of our damage into our Werewolf and push through their team. So that was a pretty good setup. So hopefully these teams are helpful to you guys with the short season of Mayhem. I know it's going to be a tough grind, but the good thing is substats don't matter on the cookies themselves. So you really just have to line up the toppings to make sure their damage output is optimal. Don't go too heavy into damage resistance and healing. I mean, you can, of course, but you're really just fighting against the poison unless you're running the bad Ford team, which it seems that nobody really is. Maybe they have them sprinkled here or there in a team, but they're not really running them. And so for that reason, I don't really recommend a very defensive setup, and instead I recommend more just doing a more damage per second setup. You can try and run Frost Queen and Sea Fairy. You can even try Oyster with the clocks. And those do pretty good in some setups, but you have to remember, because of lack of substats, some of the specific builds that you would normally run don't quite actually work out. I tried Summoner Team, and it kind of did okay, but it wasn't doing it fully because I didn't have the substats to really push them to the limit. So like Oyster, for instance. Oyster, you need substats for the cooldown and the watch to get the full army and their full attack power. When you don't have that, they're almost halved, if not quarter, power of their capabilities. And so Oyster was not a recommendation that I was going to use in this Mayhem season for that reason. Rye Cookie, really good, but yet again, unless you're running speed specifically with robes attached, running a speed team, you're not going to get the benefit, and taking out the highest HP cookie, the lowest HP cookie, doesn't necessarily give you a full benefit unless you know that that cookie was going to deal huge damage to your team. So it's an option you can explore, but it's a tough one. Cherry Blossom was also a consideration. Same with Pumpkin Pie, and I even did consider Twizzly and Latte because they do have some good area crowd control. But yet again, damage per second, just of the units that are out and the units that are working, these are the teams that kind of just made sense to me for right now. If you guys find anything better, or you want to comment with your teams or any suggestions you think you have, I'd love to hear it. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.